Dembélé.
Vous m'avez soutenu dans les bons et dans les mauvais moments. Voilà, on a élevé notre niveau pour aller chercher tous ces trophées collectifs. Voilà, surtout ce trophée individuel, c'est vraiment le collectif pour moi, qui l'a gagné.
Ousmane has faced a lot of criticism. Sometimes it was justified during his roller coaster career that gave no indication at all that he would have such an exceptional 2024 to 2025 season. Ousmane Dembélé is the story of a kid who grew up in Évreux in Normandy before being spotted for his brilliant ball control by Stade Rennais, the club where he started. His talent was immediately obvious to observers, and at 18 in 2016, he was already an undisputed starter in Ligue 1, still a bit too young to play the Euro with Les Bleus, but without a doubt a future asset, alongside his national teammate, Kylian Mbappé. But the truth is, there are very few players who control every aspect of their careers, and Dembélé is no exception, as injuries would significantly slow down the progress of the mercurial Frenchman. And even once fully recovered, Ousmane was a huge disappointment. Dembélé's genius is undeniable, but despite playing for top clubs, the native of Vernon still couldn't take off, until everything he finally clicked with PSG in 2024 and 2025. Let's look back at an incredibly and challenging journey of a kid who would indeed go on to absolutely amaze the entire world, eventually winning football's most prestigious and elusive individual award.
Mais vous êtes droitier ou gaucher?
Gaucher.
Sûr, parce que vous marquez aussi le droit.
Ouais, je suis plus gaucher.
Et les pénaltys, vous les tirez pas du droit?
Si.
Pourquoi?
Parce que je tire mieux du droit.
Well, on the field, from his very first season as a pro in 2015-2016, it was immediately clear that Ousmane Dembélé was a phenomenon, and his name made headlines for the first time in March 2016, when he scored a hat-trick for Rennes against FC Nantes, leading to a 4-1 victory. He wasn't even 19 yet at the time. And this academy prodigy amazed Ligue 1, even being named the league's best young player at the end of the season, thanks to his 12 goals and 5 assists in just 26 matches. The future of the Vernon native seemed all mapped out, with European clubs vying for him, and in 2016, Ousmane made a choice that I found very bold at the time by moving to Germany to wear the colours of Borussia Dortmund, a club with a remarkable history, though not the flashiest in Europe, but above all, one that competes in the Champions League. And already, the Ruhr roared at his exploits. There's no doubt about it, Dembélé is a phenomenon. At his age, the young kid is dictating the tempo of the team. Ousmane is such a joy to watch play. With that ball control, that lively energy, animated by a fluidity typical of those who will one day become truly great names. Nothing can stop him, to the point that after just one season in the Bundesliga, Dortmund already seems too small for Ousmane Dembélé. At the end of the season, he wins the German Cup and makes a strong impression during a friendly match between France and England in June 2017. The French team was down to 10 men, yet Ousmane Dembélé delivered an incredible performance and left his mark on the bright future that seems destined for him. That same year, at 20 years old, he moved to Barcelona for a record transfer fee, nearly 150 million euros. Nothing is too big for Ousmane, so that the Catalan club entrusts him with a supreme role, trying to make people forget Neymar, who left for Paris Saint-Germain. Can you just imagine the pressure on this kid? Everything is happening so fast for him, and it's both wonderful and terrifying. The fairy tale is underway, but the difficulties are beginning. Right at the start of the 2017-2018 season with Barca, a serious injury stops him in his tracks and keeps him off the pitch for 4 months. He comes back in 2018, but for the first time, Ousmane seems to stumble a bit in his football, or at least he appears less lively than usual. It's hard to come back from a long injury, especially at his age when he's never experienced that before. But the national coach Didier Deschamps still trusts him for the 2018 World Cup, and in the first match against Australia, Dembélé starts on the left as part of a trio with Mbappé and Griezmann. But in that match, this trio absolutely fails to convince. I'm certain that if the Dembélé-Mbappé-Griezmann trio had worked perfectly that day, we would never have heard about Giroud in the French team again. Really, Except that the absence of the Chambéry native is a real problem for Les Bleus, who are seriously lacking coordination. Dembélé disappoints, just like all his teammates, and will only make a timid appearance against Denmark in the third match. For the rest of the World Cup, which Les Bleus will go on to win, he will be a substitute, experiencing the title of world champion far from the status of a key player. And when he returns to his club, Dembélé faces the same problems. A lifestyle that leaves much to be desired, and which is even said to be responsible for his many injury absences. His astronomical transfer fee should have made him realize the level of commitment expected from him, because if he couldn't be consistent in his performances, he could have at least have shown impeccable attitude. But that is far from being the case. Dembélé is stagnating both at his club and with the national team, and in the meantime, injuries still haven't spared him. It's hard not to be disappointed when talking about Dembélé's situation. He had made some very good career choices up until now, but unfortunately, since that first major injury in 2017, he hasn't been the same. Even when promoted to the starting lineup at the 2022 World Cup, the French team featuring Mbappé, Giroud, Griezmann, Varane, Rabiot and Lloris shone for a month in Qatar, but Ousmane was one of the few in Deschamps' starting 11 who sorely lacked personality in this team and still hasn't managed to free himself up like his teammates did. So of course, aside from his disastrous final against Argentina, and he wasn't the only one, he was subbed off even before halftime, but still, if Dembélé was there, it wasn't for nothing either. When you know how exceptional his potential is, it's just so disappointing to see him like that. How distant he seems now, that famous carefree Dembélé, as free as the air. Like many before him, his meteoric rise appears to have stalled at the stage of promise. In 2023, aware that he needs a fresh start, Barca temporarily lowers his release clause to 50 million euros, an opportunity seized by Paris Saint-Germain, who signed him. The capital club is now coached by Luis Enrique. And in an ironic twist, Dembélé was brought in precisely to replace Neymar, who had left Paris Saint-Germain. The train comes by once again, but this time it will be his last stop. Because at 26, maybe it's finally time to stop disappointing, to finally get his shots on target. But in his first season at the Parc des Princes, Dembélé doesn't surprise anyone. There's genius in him, no doubt about that, but when it comes to his performances, people still make the same criticisms as always. He could do better, gambles a lot, tries things that are too complicated. Just like the French national team at Euro 2024, Ousmane Dembélé still isn't making any sparks. And even though in his first season at the Parc des Princes, he only managed a small tally of 6 goals in 42 matches, he's still the club's top assist provider across all competitions this season. Nothing to make headlines about either, right? 12 assists in all competitions, and I think 6 or 7 in the league. Well, that's not bad, but not exactly great. But while we thought Kylian Mbappé was supposed to help him play better, in reality, the departure of the kid from Bondi to Real Madrid is actually going to benefit him a lot. Because without Mbappé, Luis Enrique is going to give him a new role, placing him more centrally in the game, in a false 9 position. A job that's very trendy for players who sometimes struggle to score, but Ousmane is more than capable of making his teammates play really well, and this new role will allow him to reach new heights. At 27 years old, we're finally going to see the real Ousmane Dembélé. After 2 months of competition, he has already scored more goals in Ligue 1 than he did last season, and this is just the beginning. This more central position allows him to make better runs from behind, which helps him prepare better shots and thus improve his finishing in front of goal. We've always wondered what it would be like if Dembélé succeeded at everything he attempted. Well, that result has just happened during this 24-25 season. But Ousmane hasn't gotten rid of all his old demons yet. There's still one left. At the beginning of October 2024, for disciplinary reasons, Luis Enrique didn't call him up for Paris Saint-Germain's away match at Arsenal. Not being called up to London? My best decision of the season. We didn't realize it at the time, but Luis Enrique had just created a monster. A tornado that will tear through everything in its path. And while Dembélé was mainly an excellent playmaker in 2024, as 2025 dawns, he would transform into a prolific goal scorer. And a striker who delivers in key moments. He scored the winning in the French Super Cup against Monaco. He was decisive in the Champions League match against Manchester City. Decisive in the round of 16's second leg against Liverpool at the start of a memorable night. He provided 2 crucial assists in that extremely tense quarter-final second leg against Aston Villa. Ousmane was unstoppable and even refused the Man of the Match trophy after that 3-2 defeat, proof that his mindset has completely changed. In the first leg of the semi-final at Arsenal, his goal is a symbol for someone who hadn't been called up 9 months earlier for that same game, and who this time would give Paris Saint-Germain the win over the Gunners. Paris dominates the Champions League. And for the curious, we've dedicated a video to this topic on the French channel. But above all, even if Ousmane doesn't score in the final against Inter, he delivers 2 assists and even, in a way, sacrifices his offensive contribution to come back and defend with unwavering focus at every moment. Dembélé's tremendous performance in the final is a major piece of the puzzle that Paris would finally manage to complete for the first time in its history by winning the most prestigious European competition in 2025. Hey Ousmane Ballon d'Or, hey Ousmane Ballon d'Or, that song will follow him for several more months, and it won't stop his incredible year at all during the Club World Cup, with a sensational entrance in the quarter-final against Bayern and a magnificent semi-final against Real Madrid, where he will both score and provide a decisive assist. In the great pantheon of football, never before had a French club achieved the quintuple: French Super Cup, Ligue 1, French Cup, Champions League and European Super Cup. And to that, you can add a club's World Cup final, with the Intercontinental Cup still to come at the end of the year. Luis Enrique's squad shone brilliantly, with their goalkeeper, full-backs and midfielders all standing out. But their best player, their playmaker throughout the season with 35 goals and 16 assists in all competitions over 53 matches, is without a doubt Ousmane Dembélé. And yet just a year ago, no one would have bet on him. The dream that had been growing inside him for several months has finally become a reality.
Dembélé.
At 28 years old, Ousmane Dembélé has completely turned things around, breaking free from the image of an eternal prospect, and has become the 6th French player to win the Ballon d'Or.
Et tout d'abord, je voulais remercier le Paris Saint-Germain qui est venu me chercher en 2023, son président, à toute l'équipe, à tout le club. C'est vraiment une famille incroyable. L'entraîneur Luis Enrique qui a été exceptionnel avec moi. Tous mes partenaires de sélection aussi, qui ont été importants pour moi. À son sélectionneur qui m'a fait confiance pendant, ça fait maintenant 8 ans, 9 ans. Il m'avait soutenu dans les bons et dans les mauvais moments. On a élevé notre niveau pour aller chercher tous ces trophées collectifs. Voilà, surtout ce trophée individuel, c'est vraiment le collectif qui, pour moi, qui l'a gagné.
But Ousmane is a winner who stands out for his simplicity, his humility, and even his sensitivity when stepping onto the stage at the Paris Châtelet Theatre. And that, I think, is something we haven't seen with many Ballon d'Or winners in the past. There were some who would step up with a speech like that, very self-assured, very confident. It's not a bad thing, but you could feel there was some ego there. Ousmane wasn't like that. We're a long way from the performance machine, the cyborg who wants to break all the stats. No, Ousmane is a human being, a player we can all easily relate to because we take him as he is, with his strengths and weaknesses. He seems so genuine and doesn't live for the cameras at all. He embodies that breath of fresh air that proves you can't always be at your best throughout your career. And above all, he's a tremendous source of hope for all footballers who feel like they're completely missing out on their career. Ousmane gives them a real mental boost, and he has never claimed in any interview that he absolutely wanted to win the Ballon d'Or. Maybe that's why he's so appreciated by his teammates, both former and current. Ousmane Dembélé thus joins the very exclusive circle of only 10 men in history to have lifted the World Cup, the Champions League and the Ballon d'Or. Congratulations, Ousmane. Congratulations on this season, as you said.
Exceptionnel.
You overcame everything, even when everyone was frustrated with you, myself included. But all that is in the past now. From now on, your career is gilded with gold. You truly deserve everything that's happening to you today. Congratulations, champion, and thank you